So as you can see, I've done something a little different here with my demo. I've used custom fonts and I have an animated effect. I just wanted to do something that didn't look quite so static and boring, and I felt like sort of pushing myself a little bit into the territory of the unknown and try to figure out how to implement other people's code. So hopefully by the end of this tutorial you'll have a pretty good idea how to reproduce something similarly for yourself. Another thing that you can probably pick up from having a look at this is that I've used a relative layout, but I've also used a linear layout. So the relative layout is, I guess, the best way of describing it would be the parent view mode, and it includes the mushroom, this greeting text and the sign-off text, as well as the background image. I've got a background image which is like a textured paper background. I've also got the mushroom perfectly centered using relative positioning, and even the heart effect is happening within the relative layout. It's expanded to fill the whole screen. But where I've used a linear layout is to get this text to go nicely up against each other. So it actually looks like it's one text view, but I've used 3 text views because I needed to enlarge the text mushroom and I needed to enlarge the text fungi. So I used a horizontal linear layout to stack them up against each other. Originally I actually had it vertical, but what happened was when I switched to portrait mode, it got cut off. So I decided to switch it to linear, which wasn't so hard to do since it was already, horizontal. Since it was already a linear layout, it was quite easy to switch it over. So let me go back to portrait mode. Okay, so first things first, when you create this project, in order to get the features like the custom fonts and the hearts feature to work, you're actually going to need to create your project using API 23 Android 6.0. Now, you might be able to go lower than this. I haven't tested it. All I know is that it works for this. So, but as a result, there are some changes. I guess Android Studio has some extra requirements to validate the code, and so I ran into a few errors and things which I needed to fix. And one of those things is you can't just hard code the text straight in to, let me see, why isn't it selecting? Okay, so you know how in class we've been taught you can just type in Android text equals and then you can say hi, my name is, or hello, or whatever. You actually need to declare it in a strings file. Now, when you create your project in this higher API, it actually creates a file for you called strings.xml under values. And if you go in there, the first thing you'll see, it'll say resources string name, and then it'll have your app name, and then it will have end resources. And so all I did was I just added some more strings in here. I gave each one an ID and a value in here. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think the purpose of doing it this way is to make your apps more scalable in future, so that if you wanted to switch from English to French to Italian, it's not like the text is embedded into the app. It can easily switch out and be much more flexible that way. At least that's my guess. So yeah, so if we go back into the design mode, you can see here how I have used a linear layout for this, and I've used a relative parent layout for this. So just to overview, if you go into the code, you'll see I have actually declared it relative layout, and I've got the width and height to match the parent so that it fills up the whole screen. And I first declared my very first image view is the background texture of the paper texture background, which I have in my drawable folder. And then right above that is my mushroom image. And then right above that, I have the snowfall component because I actually wanted the hearts to float over the top of my mushroom, and I wanted them to appear underneath the text. So then I have my linear text views declared straight after the snowfall component so that they appear above it. And so yeah, I've got two linear layout groups. So this one, you'll see it's got 3 text views in it, and then straight after it I have the second linear layout with 3 text views in it. And then to finish off, I have my intro text and my sign-off text. These are positioned top left always, top right always. It doesn't matter what size the screen is. It will even put override. So if you go into landscape view, if this is too big, it will actually overlap. And that's because relative layouts you can place things on the screen and overlap anything you want with it. It's actually quite powerful in that way. So that's what I've done here. So we've gone through the strings.xml, so now you know how to add that. And as you can see here, in order to call them, I said Android text equals @string fungi text view 2. And if you go to my actual strings, fungi text view 2 says the word fungi. And you'll probably notice these are all in regular case, but my app has everything in uppercase. And I did that by using text all caps equals true. I also used a custom color. I used the same color that I used in the drawing. And I also had to add a margin to the left and the right of the word mushroom and to the left and the right of the word funky so that they weren't so close together. And the other thing that you're probably curious about, how did I use these custom fonts? Well, it was a little over my head how to do it with a lower API. So I went with Marshmallow so that it would be easier. And basically all you do is quite easy. You select your text. It will always probably be defaulted to sans serif or something. As you can see, you can actually now select Cyril and Francisco because it's I've already used it. That's the name of the Google font that I've used for this text here. So it's now available, but for the first time, you're actually going to need to select more fonts, and then you're going to have to scroll down and find the font that you like. And then it will ask you, do you want to create a downloadable font or add the font to a project? And from what I can surmise, when you add the font to the project, it's going to actually embed the font with your app, and it's going to add to your file size. But if you create a downloadable font, every time you open the app, it downloads it off the server and displays the font for you. And I think the upside is you've got a small app size, but the downside is you can only use the app when you're connected to the internet. Otherwise, it's going to look all messed up. So in the case of an app this simple, it doesn't really matter, and I just randomly selected create a downloadable font. And once I did that, it actually changed my text to it actually said Android font family, and then it put that in there for me. And it changed some files back here. I'm not 100% sure which ones. It's a little bit over my head, but it embedded everything or did things that needed to be done to make it display, and that I otherwise don't know how to do. So the font that I used for this I thought went really great with the image, and it's actually you can go and have a look at fonts on Google Fonts. This is the one for Sue Ellen, and it's really cool. You can actually type in your text and see it, like preview it and decide which one you want. Every single one of these, you will find it in Android Studio when you select it from that drop down, and so that's really handy. Okay, so finally, you're probably wondering how I did the snowfall. So this, I just want to first of all give a shout out to this guy Nick. I saw his example on Slack, and I really liked it because I was really looking for ideas on how to do something that wasn't static. And initially I thought it was a GIF, and yes, this demo is a GIF, but his actual project uses actually uses a repository that's on GitHub, and I saw his instructions here. So the repository I've linked to in my description for this video. Here it is. Originally, when I looked at it, I didn't really understand where to copy and paste all this text. But fortunately, there is a video which I've always also linked to, which steps you through silently. There's no sound, but it steps you through the whole process of where to put the files and what text to copy and paste and exactly where to put it, which was really great because now I don't think I'll get lost again on how to do this. Secondly, if this is the first time you've used GitHub, which it was in my case, I struggled so much for a day trying to figure out how to connect Android Studio to GitHub so that I could upload my own repositories. Here's my Valentine card repository. And fortunately, I've actually found a really great article called How to Set Up Android Studio with GitHub. It's on the Udacity forum, and it gives I really wish I'd found this before I'd struggled so hard, because it gives you a pretty good little intro on how to get your repository up and how to edit it and everything. So that's also linked to in my instructions. So yeah, if you go to GitHub Yummy Wakami and Valentine card, you will be able to actually download this project yourself and have a look at it in your Android Studio, and edit it, reproduce it, do whatever you want, and it should be pretty straightforward for you from there on. So hopefully that tells you everything that you need to know, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.